Maryam Ehsani, Grace Thompson, thank you so much for joining us on AI Trust Talks today. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here, and I'm so excited about the conversation we're going to have, and an absolute critical conversation in today's world, all things child protection, especially in the age of AI, and what we need to do as humans to really help protect the future generations to come. So, to start off today, can you give me a bit of a background on where you've come from, what your history is, and the expertise you'll bring to the table today? Mariam, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I am in the field of child protection, child rights for the past 16 years. And for the past few years, we have been focused on looking into responsible AI and organizations and how to ensure that their AI tools, their AI platform is safe for kids. So we have been working on online safety for all these years, but now with AI advancing so fast, we are just changing the pace of how we had the conversation and how fast things are moving. So this is what we are trying to advocate for, how children should understand the risks and the parents as well and the caregivers, and how can we work together to ensure responsible AI it's number one in the agenda.
Thank you for those insights. It really is a critical conversation. So, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Grace.
Well, Emma, thank you for having me here. I have been working in the higher education and strategic advising to public entities for more than 20 years. And currently, I work as the director of the AI policy clinics for a non for profit organization called Center for AI and Digital Policy. We're a global think tank. We're based in Washington, D.C., but we have a network of more than 1,900 researchers in AI policy. Our mission is to promote a more transparent, safe, and secure AI. And we have three pillars for this to be accomplished. And it's that AI has to be able to adhere or support human rights, fundamental rights, democratic values, and the rule of law.
Such an important piece of work that's happening there. So, thank you very much for joining us as well. So, Grace, I'd like to start with you. You've helped shape AI policy at both national and international levels. What's one blind spot you see in how governments are approaching AI and children?
And governments in general are making good attempts to regulate and govern AI at the general level. But in so doing, they oversee the need to specifically address uh, child rights. It's not necessarily that they do not address them, perhaps the misunderstanding that when policing governance for AI, for the enterprise, or for education in general, that suffices. And it is important to consider that to try to promote and ensure that we are respecting child rights, we have to embed these child rights considerations within this policy, meaning making it very explicit that there are specific considerations to the development and the deployment of AI tools, considerations of child privacy, considerations of child safeguard, and everything should be developed and designed to protect, right? To provide and to have the children participate in those policymaking activities. And so that is a space where I think that we have much to do.
Yeah. I think that's one of the key things that we've always spoken about. Where are the children in your decision making? Where are they in the testing and the development? Are they part of this? And how do we get them more included as well?
Mhm.
So, Grace, I'd like to stay with you on this one. What's the most promising but underused tool we have to protect children in AI powered systems?
Well, it's very important to consider that there are frameworks out there and there are tools. For example, in 2021, UNICEF, among many other activities that they were doing for in terms of child protection, promoted more intensively the CRIAs, right, which
Mm,
is the Child Rights Impact Assessments,
Mm.
which is a tool that was tested, I believe, in 2022 in approximately 13 European countries. They were part of this testing, but those impact assessments at that time were done because they wanted to assess the impact of COVID in schools and the impact on children within that context. Those CRIAs could be easily used to have impact assessments of the use of AI tools on children because it follows exactly the same Convention of
Mm.
Child Rights. So we use the same seminal framework that exists and we adapt it to assess other impacts. And in this case, it will be ethical impact in the use of AI or child rights impact on the use of AI on children, their parents, and their caregivers.
Yeah, very good insights. There's a lot out there. We just need to leverage what we've got, and where needed, just enhance the tooling. So, Maryam, I'd like to come to you. You've worked across continents, different sectors. What first drew you to the intersection of AI and child rights?
So going back to what I was saying in terms of child abuse happens everywhere. In terms of online, is one of the area that has been always is going up. Like nobody's really taking the online world very serious when it comes to child abuse and what can happen in children's life when they are online. We always see parents, they teach you how to cross the road, hold hands, how to, the basic things of how to stay safe, the protection in the real world. But the online was always an area that we struggled through my work experience and working with different organizations. It could be lack of budget, people not really investing in the online safety for children. It could be that there's a lot of unknown things that people are not willing to unfold and understand what's behind it. So this has been a real challenge, the online safety for children. Why AI? Of course, AI, it's everywhere now. AI has been in use for a long time now, but now people are hearing it more, seeing it more. Children are using it more. Sometimes we see like children, they are using it, but they don't know that AI is embedded within those systems. So that is why we thought, okay, if AI is advancing so far, we were already struggling with the prevention of child abuse online, especially sexual abuse, and the prevention of CSAM, sexual abuse online. How do we ensure that AI is not adding more? And it is adding more. There are more risks. I'm not saying AI is terrible. It's something that cannot be used by children. It can be used. It has done great in terms of education. We all agree on that. But then without a risk assessment, without understanding what are the risks. So this is what we're trying to do. We talk to educators, to parents, to governments, entities. Let's have AI, but let's look at the risk and how can we prevent them from happening to the children.
You're right. And I think we're starting now to see a lot of investigations. There's a lot of fines coming out, especially to technology companies who had not prioritized children's health or well-being in these types of tools. The time is now. We need to act now. So it's very timely that we're having these kind of conversations as well. So what's one moment in your work that made you realize the stakes of AI for children are higher than most people think?
Let's take an example of a project that I had with an INGO, with a nonprofit organization, where they work with aftercare, so children without parental care. And for them, the priority number one is how to find a safe place for the children after they've been removed from the family. For me, when I look at that, okay, having a safe home, it's great. But then what types of access do these children have to? So sometimes when we do the assessment, things come out that the educators or the childcare providers or the organization have never thought about it. They will not even think that this is a risk because it's just a screen. There's a screen there. Children are spending few hours in there. They are safe. They are in a home. And things came out of those services where the system were not monitored, where the system were not assessed, and children were at more risk of being in those spaces without considering the AI risks when it comes to children and their development through these systems. So for me, that was a very alarming. And I, as part of the recommendation, I said, when you are looking for a safe home, we need to look at everything that goes in that safe home. What types of access does the children have to? Who is in contact with these children through these online platform, social media platform? We can't just think about safeguarding the children in the physical world, also thinking about what goes when they are online. Who is the person online that they're speaking to? It can be an AI tool that they've been using as a fun activity, but then they steal the data, and then what's happened to the data? We will not know. The children will not know. The people who work, try to support and safeguard the children, they wouldn't know. So for me, this is a very alarming thing. Don't just think about the immediate answer of safeguarding children, but think what goes around the safety of the children.
Couldn't agree with you more. And you have highlighted, I think that there are three very important aspects in what Mariam has shared, and is a point of entry of AI into the lives of children.
Yes.
It's definitely because a caregiver, an adult, gave that point of entry, right? The kid by himself doesn't have those resources. So it is either that he's in a space where adults provide that access with good intentions, but without looking further. Or it could be spaces like school, and that's one point that I want to talk about, elaborate a little bit more. Then you have schools where kids are put into these AI tools are good for them and are expected to improve their educational outcomes, right? And then they have their friends. So all these spaces, right, it's a full ecosystem in which the kids interact, play, live, now is under threat. So because
Mm.
these AI systems are pervasive, right? They come in through your mobile, the mobile that you use in order for you to be in communication with your child is an interface for them to access certain information that they should not be accessing. So you have this different ecosystem, that puts the kid and exposes the kid. We have two ways to approach how we can protect the child in such ecosystem. One is, unfortunately, this reactive way that Maryam is describing, which is now we have encountered the problem and then the parents and the caregivers have to find a solution to that. What about the upstream of that problem? What about the developers who developed that specific tool that was put into that social media channel and that specific tool? So that's when policy making comes in. So policymakers have to be able to set accountability to the developers of these systems so that these systems do not get to the spaces where kids are without proper safeguards. There is a second element in there. So you have policy making in governing and setting guardrails, in saying what is admissible and what is not admissible. And we can go drill down into what elements are those. And then you have another work of policymaking that is on the education side. People who are in the spaces, educating parents, educating caregivers, educating principals and teachers at schools with AI literacy programs that can make everybody aware about the risks. Knowing those risks and understanding those risks, they are able to then make those accountabilities more firm, right? So a principal who understands what they should be looking into a system that is purchased into the school that is going to be put in the classrooms have to be able to clearly understand what the risks are. So it's looking at the entire ecosystem and entire elements within which the children are, and then decide if the policy making is an action that has to come upstream as well as downstream.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good points. You're right. There is an element of everybody in that ecosystem has to take some form of accountability when it comes to protecting
Yeah.
children, the safe use of AI, etc. And we've talked about the risks as well a bit. So Mariam, you've spoken about invisible harms of AI. What are the risks we're not seeing and we should be when it comes to protecting children online, especially in the age of AI?
Yes. So, I mean, there is so many tools out there. I cannot just name, but one of the things that Grace also mentioned in terms of education tools, there is a lot of them, and a lot of school systems are already launched those systems, and children are using them. So, I have been assessing few of them. I'm not going to name the systems, but there are a lot of things that can go wrong through the educational system as well using the AI. I give you an example. There is this AI tool where it's monitoring the children's behavior, so they are studying while online, and the AI tool, the chatbot, is telling the child via the visibility of their face, now it's time to take a break. You look tired. And the child is not tired. I spoke to the child. It's just making faces, or they still have the ability to study. So it's how much influence those AI tools are having in our children. This is what scares me. And this is one of the higher risk. How much dependency we are becoming, how much dependent we are on these AI tools, and the children are becoming dependent on the AI tools. What I would say, it's like, although it comes from education, great. Question, ask questions, critical questions. Why do you have to have your child? I understand there are tools for children for special needs where it's actually really helping them when it comes to AI tools. But why would every child need to be monitored through the webcam to see their facials, and what will happen to this data? What do they do to these data after that? What does the child know of who is what they are being monitored on? Is there transparency to the parents? I speak to a lot of parents. Parents don't question because it comes from the school.
Mm.
Why do we not
And they
question
put
if
their trust in the school that
exactly?
they've done the
So
right
for
thing.
me, too much trust, it's not good. You know, sometimes it's not intentional, the harm. The education system is not trying to harm your child, but by not looking at the risks, by not understanding what can go wrong. AI in education, it's new. It's fairly new. So has it been tested? Is there a lot of research? Is there a lot of studies about what's the impact on children? There isn't many there. So why are we putting the children in contact with these chatbots, with these facial recognition communication, just because it's a trend? I'm not saying don't have it, but have a great assessment. Look at the risks at each levels. Children don't know what they are coming into. They just go with what we tell them it's okay to go to. What are the trust that we are giving them, the schools are giving them. So having it's UAE has launched the AI in the curriculum from 4 years old. That's amazing. That's great because it's all about learning, innovation, and you speak to children. I mean, some children are already they know about AI. They use it to draw a unicorn, or they communicate to the chatbot asking it, "Can you draw a unicorn for me?" But then what goes more after
Mm.
that? How can our parents are aware of what are the dependencies and the risks behind it? Are the teachers aware? Do they have the digital literacy that we need? This is the questions we should be asking. And I mean, when I talk about child protection and child safeguarding, not only on the online world, I always say don't give 100% trust to any system.
Mm.
Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, because sometimes people can misuse the
Yeah.
trust that you're giving when it comes to children. We are responsible. Everyone is responsible for the safety of the children in the society.
Yeah.
Yes, as parents, we are responsible. Teachers, doctors, nurses, whoever comes in contact with children and provide any service to the children, directly or indirectly, they are responsible, and they should be questions if anything goes wrong when it
Agreed.
comes to AI.
Agreed. And you raised some really good points, especially around the monitoring tooling. What are the benefits? Have you really assessed the benefits versus the risks, and do we need it? I have a very strong opinion on not monitoring employees in the workplace and
Yeah.
treat everybody like an adult. But then as a child, you need to protect their rights as well. As adults, we need to do better for children. Grace, I want to come back to you about a policy around the policy lens. Are we treating AI's impact on children as a public health issue, a tech issue, or something entirely different?
I think that there's a convergence of approaches at different governments. We are seeing this when we, in our publication, the CIDP index, we analyzed the national policies on AI of 80 countries, 90 countries for 2026. We do see intents of the national governments on establishing a policy that looks at human rights, right? Once again, not drill down to children's rights, which this is what we should endeavor to make that a specific emphasis. Most of the approaches, however, are technical rather than on the health side or on the human rights side. That lens of human rights that connects with the Child Rights Convention, for example, is what is necessary. Because if we are only, it is necessary but not sufficient. It is not only that we have to monitor whether the exposure of a kid to certain minutes to a tool is what we should be, looking for. It is beyond that. It's that long-term impact that it has on the kid. And Maryam, your points are excellent leverage for what the 3 points that I want to make. There are no scientific tools that are being put in front of our learners without consent. So consent doesn't exist. And if a kid is of an age where she or he are unable to understand this consent is on the parents. This request for consent is inexistent sometimes. Second, you have an aspect of proportionality. When a school or when a parent decides to bring an AI tool to the kid, and in the process of the interaction with the AI tool, the kid has to give more information, or the system has much more information about the child than it is necessary for the operation of this system. You have a non-proportionality,
Mm.
right? And then you have this aspect of the third party intervention. A tool is put in front of your kid at school. You believe that this is going only for the purpose of education, but the platform behind the scenes is taking the information of your kid, if the school has not controlled that, and selling it for monetary purposes, for marketing purposes, or for retraining purposes of AI tools. To avoid this, it is necessary that looking at a lens of child's right impact, any deployer of any AI system ensures that their providers are accountable, that the systems are transparent, meaning that the parents and the kids know what is happening with their data and the information that they are having, that they are providing, that the systems are secure, that they are safe, and that there's consent. Of all these elements, there's one to highlight from what Mariam was talking about. There are prohibited practices. These are called red lines. The European Union is way advanced in terms of regulation with the EU AI Act and also with the Council of Europe Convention Framework for AI, the AI Treaty, that specifically sets binding norms for the use of AI and the development and use of AI to protect fundamental rights, democratic values, and the rule of law. Those frameworks establish levels of risk, and there are levels of high risk. High risk are uses of AI in education and health and finance. And there are prohibited practices. And some of the prohibited practices are the use of tools of AI for facial recognition and biometric identification in real time. And those are prohibited practices. Those should not be happening. The need for literacy and the need for education, it's really the pillar of all these, because some organizations, schools, centers may be using that because someone has told them that system that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
Right? That shouldn't be happening.
You raise really good points, and your point on transparency is critical, right?
Yeah.
We need to be able to communicate the outcomes, the use of AI, et cetera, to the end user. But some organizations or people are using a 300-page policy document to explain that transparency. That's also not good enough, right? We need to make it really plain, simple for the average humanity to be able to understand what that system, what are you doing with that data? What will you do and what will you not do with that data?
It's exactly right. What you're saying is the ability to opt out of the system, but most importantly, to have the right to have opted in
Yeah.
for the system, because the
Not
way
just
that
automatic.
the dark pattern design makes the person be in and figure out if they are to opt out in order to opt out, and that's something that also has to change.
We're seeing this a lot at the moment, actually. Organizations retraining models using your data, and it's automatically opt-in, and you have to find a way, or you'll see a
Yeah.
post on social media and then realize it's actually there and you need to go in and switch it
Yeah,
off.
it's just to add to what we're having here. I think it's very important because even though if the terms and conditions and the policies is shorter, it's still, if we are having platforms and places for children who are using it, we need to have a child-friendly content
Yep.
for the child, the teenager, to understand what does it mean. It's not always, the caregivers are not always going to be there. So the idea of safeguarding to equip the children is for them to own the understanding of what are the risks, what are the do's and don'ts, what are the things I can be sharing, what are the things I cannot be sharing. These things should be visible to the children. So as part of a project I recently had, we've been assessing website. We go behind the scene. We look into, do they collect their IP address? Do they collect the names and surname? Do they only ask you for the username? Do they ask your location? And then we look at it, why would you even ask the address of the child? And
Yeah.
why would you even ask them to upload a picture? You know, there are things that they are not necessary. So having it to question, again, going back to the critical thinking, teaching the children to question themselves. What are the things that they should be doing and not be doing? It's very important, not just the adults. We need child-friendly materials as well for the kids.
Agreed. And staying on the topic of consent and sharing of pictures, I know you and I have a very strong opinion on this, but let's talk about it again because we need to keep raising it. Parents often share photos of their children online. What are the long-term consequences of this, and especially in the AI-powered world?
Yeah. So we have seen there has been a lot of cases out there where the images of children are being misused again by innocently sharing an image of your child, or the children sharing themselves their images, not knowing what are the things that can happen. It can track them. The image will be there forever, basically. We can, even if you delete it from Facebook, from Instagram, from TikTok, it's going to be there. It's stored behind the scene. The data has been collected. Then, as we are here sitting in this room talking about awareness and raising awareness about not sharing too much, there are people sitting in a different room thinking about how to misuse these images that they are out there. This is the reality. And it's sad. But how advanced are we? How much education are we doing to the parents, for the parents and for the children? I will say we are way behind. So going back to your question, even as innocent, I have reported many images online to Instagram and Facebook. Within a second, I get a reply back saying, this is actually okay, and we are not going to remove it. So if the image of the child is just naked from behind, it's okay. But if it's the front, it's not okay. So for me, don't just think if an organization or a tech company have allowed something, then it's okay. As a parent, think about it. Why are we sharing these images? Is it necessary? Do we need to share
Who's
everything?
benefiting?
Exactly. Who is benefiting? And does the child want to have their images when they are 18 years old? When they come to understand these things, do they want to have a huge profile online before they became an adult? So for me, this is it's a consent. I mean, how and the parents say to me, "Do we need to ask our children if even if they are 5, 6?" I said, "Yes." Although they will not understand the impact, but you use child-friendly material, child-friendly or ways of talking to your child so they can understand what is happening. And then they can be aware later on in their adulthood or childhood not to share themselves among their friends or platforms that they are using.
Good insights. And do you think, and this is a question for both of you, do you think children should have the right to delete their digital footprint when they do turn of age?
Of course,
Yes.
it's just part of their rights. It's the right to privacy rights, so part of their fundamental rights. I think that one of the areas you were asking, what were some of the gap areas in policy making, I think that we have to thread it carefully because of the following. Mariam and I have been now in this dialogue with you. We are trying to focus on, okay, these spaces for kids. We have to take care of these spaces for kids, and we're giving the responsibility to the caregivers and to the school principals and the people who are taking care of them. But we're forgetting that the ones who really have to be accountable, once again, are the ones in the upstream. So the ones who create these systems. We are exposed to these systems at this level, and we have to do something about this. But it is regulation and policy making has to be at this point, at the point of deployment. That those systems, we have principles called the Universal Guidelines for AI, the EU guide. Those were created in 2018. These are 12 principles that tell you that systems that are developed and are deployed have to be transparent, have to be fair, have to provide for rights to privacy. And there's one specific principle that is key, which is called the determination obligation. Determination obligation says that any AI system that is deployed that is causing harm where AI oversight is not possible has to be terminated.
Mm.
That's the obligation termination. And if before a system is deployed, there has to be a review of that system. And that the review of that system comes from the development of that system. And the developer of that system has to, at minimum, meet some ethical requirements and some safety requirements. Systems should not be deployed if they are not trustworthy. Systems should not be deployed if in the ex ante impact assessment it impacts people and specifically impacts the child rights. So that's where that's where the focus should be. Yes, of course, we need to have education to us as caregivers, to the parents, but we are those affected by this that is happening, right?
And it's true. I mean, tech companies play a huge role, in these things. But let's look back at what's been happening with some of the websites where children have been impacted and some of them committed suicide. Is the website still around or no? It's still there. The website is still there. Children are still using it. Unfortunately, they have a different agenda, the tech companies. Yes, I totally agree with you. I work with tech companies. I speak to tech companies. Their agenda is more usability, more children to be
Accessibility as well.
just hooked into what they have created, more people to use their systems. They don't care about safeguarding. Yes, there's some of them, they have AI safety ambassadors, they have safeguarding people. But when you look at deep in the agenda, what do they care about mostly? Is profits.
Mm.
And how do they increase profit? I mean, I have a lot of tech friends. They will hate me for saying that, but this is the reality. They have a different agenda. We have a different agenda. How can we work together? This is the question. How can we come together? Because at the end of the day, it's about collaboration. It's exactly what you said, Grace. We need the tech people to listen to us, and we need the tech companies to come to work with the child rights and the responsible AI
and
team.
to be accountable. And I think that the UAE
Exactly.
has done
Yeah.
just in the spring, I believe, right?
Yes.
There was a pact that was signed with some tech companies and the UAE
Yes.
government,
Agree with that.
and to commit to this responsible use.
Yes.
And globally, there are efforts not specifically on children's rights, which is necessary, but in the protection or in the safety of AI systems, where organizations voluntarily commit to certain principles. This is the Hiroshima AI process, which is a framework of voluntary disclosure of the practices on AI done at the corporate level. And large corporations are committing, are disclosing their information. This is a initiative between the Group of Seven and the OECD. Well, similar type of initiatives
Mhm.
could be created. And here's when, while we are making upstream accountable the tech companies, at our side,
Yes.
we should have public voice.
Mhm.
And that literacy that Mariam and I are and you are advocating for is literacy for the parents, the caregivers,
Mhm.
the kids, to be able to shape policymaking. The policymakers listen to the parents, to
Mhm.
this, to the fiber of the social system that is around the kids, to design policies that
Mhm.
achieve that, the protection, the provision, and the participation of the children in their own journey to respecting their rights.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I think really good points. And it's multi layered who's involved, who's
Yes.
accountable. Policy is key. Enforceability is another
Mhm.
key element. Not everybody is willing to self regulate and do the right thing to
Yes.
protect children and protect us all online in the age of AI. So, Grace, just coming to you, how are current AI governance frameworks assessing the rights of children as data subjects? And do you think they're enough?
Yeah, so for example, GDPR, which is a data protection framework that the UAE, we are not part of the European Union, but there are principles in our data protection laws here in the
Yeah.
UAE that follow GDPR very closely. And in those, all these aspects of not being subject to automated decisions
Mhm.
is a principle. Principles of privacy, principles of proportionality, principles of consent are there. So they do exist. They have to be implemented and made accountable. So if coming back to the excellent example that Marianne gave us at the very beginning, if a school strategically, because the purchase of systems in schools is not a decision of one person, right? It's a strategic decision, right? A committee meets, a committee that hopefully has faculty and administrators, and they decide that they're going to allocate part of the budget to revamp their delivery with AI, as it may have been at the time that LMS came into and they use ethics. So there's a strategic decision. In that moment, they're making this strategic decision. They have to set certain principles. When we choose a vendor, the vendor has to assure us the following: that there will not be selling of the data of our students, that there will not be privacy protection, that there's going to be consent. All these are set at the moment of deciding the investment. When the selection of the vendor happens and the system is purchased into the organization has to take additional measures that all the faculty understand, because it was a faculty shared decision,
Mhm.
understand how the system is going to work. What are the limits of the use of these systems? Explain to the parents why this tool was used, and explaining to the kids and monitor the kids while they are using this. And then having continuous impact assessments okay, so we adopted this system because we think that this is the best way to monitor whether the path of the learning should be this way. This achieved that. Did we achieve that outcome using this AI system? If it didn't, to refine why. Why didn't it happen? What happened with the privacy of the data of my learners? Is the data still with us? Did the parents consent? So the protections exist there. They can be implemented, they should be implemented at the organizational level, and there should be accountability. At the end of the year, parents association within the school should be able to hear from the institution.
Mm.
This is what we did. We implemented this system and we achieved this with your students. And we protected the students from, we didn't alter privacy provisions. There has to be accountability, right? It has to be accountability.
This is good points, and you raise a really good one about around third party as well. How do you pass on that accountability and that monitoring to the third party, and then monitoring and continuously keeping that dialogue going with academia and educators as well as the parents as well. So another topic that I know we're very passionate about is the rise of child influencers online and the monetization around what can actually happen. Should regulators intervene on this?
You know about the conference that I attended in Saudi, and I was a keynoter on this topic, talking about child influencers. When you talk to parents, the parents who have child influencers, they're very proud and they are very happy because, of course, there's an income behind it as well, and there's the famous. They being famous, they are famous online. They have a lot of followers, all of that. So there is this aspect which they are very proud of. But when I speak to them about what are the impacts long term on the children being in front of the camera every day, nonstop, sharing, oversharing, they wouldn't even think about the things that we are talking about here. They don't see them as risks. They see them as this is brilliant. You know, my child is famous. Everybody knows us.
Opportunity,
There's an
profits.
opportunity, and long term, they will be a very successful person. The income is going up. But when we look at the research, there has been some research in terms of child influencers, and I looked into them and worked with some organization on them. When you look at the mental health of those children, it's impacting them 100%
Wow.
because they are not being a child. You know, what is childhood? What is healthy childhood? Being in front of the camera and just opening boxes and toys and recording yourself and waiting to see how many likes and how many people are going to share your content. For me, this is not childhood. Maybe people will disagree with me and say, but this is the modern way of children.
I know the pressure I feel when I go to do a post on social media, like, which is generally just a meme that I think is funny. But I'm like, who could this offend? What is the impact of this? And think about a child going through those emotions as well and may not even think about everything. It's a huge amount of pressure for children
They
to
don't.
continuously
Yes.
perform when you're online and
Yeah.
keep up an image that you don't even understand what you're doing or to the extent of what it
Yes.
is.
And sometimes the content is being created for them. They don't even know why they are saying what they're saying.
Yeah.
So the marketing company or the companies who send them the toys or the very expensive packages, they ask them to say what they need to be saying. So it's not real. You know, the child is acting. And I speak to these influencers. Sometimes it's too much pressure, you know, for being an actor. At 5 years old, sometimes
Mm.
they start doing these unboxing of toys, and now they are like 16, 17 years old. They literally don't have any friend. They don't have anyone to talk to. Their world is the online world. But
Mm.
how healthy is this when it comes to childhood? I don't think
Yeah.
so. I don't think it's a good thing.
Agreed. And we've touched a bit on AI and education. I want us to deep dive into this topic because it's very appropriate for the time and age of where we are now. So, to Grace, come to you. You've advised on AI curriculum design. How do we teach AI in schools without turning children into passive consumers of technology?
Three pillars to a good AI literacy program. One of them is focus not only on the tool, right, on the dexterity on that specific tool that is going to be brought into the classroom, but focus on the ability to critique that tool. It's that empowerment that Maryam was talking about.
Yeah.
Second point, the point about making them critical thinkers and critics of the use of the tool. I think that there's one very important aspect is to demystify the belief that the kids do not understand the implications. It is possible. A good education program, a well articulated, well designed program in a school makes the child a main actor in their decisions when they are faced with scenarios, age appropriate scenarios about what is the right thing to do, what is not the right thing to do, these ethical dilemmas. You form that empowerment, right, in the child, so he's able to determine whether this tool, if it is okay that I should be staying here longer instead of going with my friends or enjoying my time outside of the screen. The literacy on the tool, the literacy on the critique of the tool, and then also to be able in the third pillar, which I believe is the more important in the AI literacy to the kids, is the literacy to the educators. So this aspect of professional development and capacity development to the educators and the administrators of a school are essential. So without these three aspects, that level of literacy, curriculum design that prevents the long-term impacts like the ones that Mariam is expressing would not be possible. So in order for that to have long-term impact, it has to be embedded in the culture. So these three things overarched by a cultural change, thinking on something that I always mention, which is called the question zero, which is why do we want to bring AI into the classroom, right? So that decision that was done in the board, the one that I illustrated before, that's a decision. It's a question zero decision. Someone made that decision because they thought it was a good thing. So then just continue the process with a change management within the organization, with changing the culture, making understand everyone what are the risks and the opportunities of the use of that tool, and empowering the kids to be able to critique, to say when I shouldn't be using this tool.
Mhm. And I just want to add, like, there's a lot of unknown things on AI. So sometimes it's okay as a parent, as a teacher, to say, I don't also know the answer. Let's explore together. So we don't want to act to be that we know everything, because nobody knows everything on AI and many things. So I always say to parents, it's okay to tell your child, let's explore this platform together. It's similar when you sit down together and create a puzzle. We don't know all the puzzle right from the beginning. Sometimes you let the child have a go and then you help them, you step in. But it's good to be open about this, having this open conversation with children. The AI is also new to me. Let's explore it together. Let's find the risks together. Sometimes if children are owning the thinking behind it, it will stay with them better than us telling them, you should not be doing this, you should be doing that. The do's and don'ts, if it comes with the children involved as part of the process, it's always more successful. Believe me, I have seen this through my career. So it's okay to say, I don't know.
Agreed. Valid points. Definitely get everybody on board, get the children on board to help make those decisions. Cultural shift is absolutely key to successful kind of responsible AI. And we talk a lot around known risks in responsible AI when we talk about bias. Where do you see the risks of bias happening in learning platforms? And is this just going to widen the education gap?
We have to look at bias from different dimensions. You have a structural bias, right? A system that could have been trained, that is brought into the classroom or your living room, trained with data that has nothing to do with cultural underpinnings of your community, yourself, your kids, right? The decisions that that system has, or the words that when we're talking about generative AI, the words and the outputs of that system are attuned to that data that they were trained on, that is not necessarily when we are using the system. And so picturing those type of systems in family, in homes in global majority countries, right, where the characteristics, the demography is different, the lived experiences are different. Just taking that system and having it give you outputs that are out of context of your territory. So you have that structural part of it. You have also the bias that can come into a system because unregulated, the designers or the developers of the system put certain algorithms that have bias. For example, let's imagine that a system is put into a school to decide admission, and the developer of the system unethically includes factors about admission that have nothing to do with the competency or the exit exams, but certain demographic characteristics, or that the data itself of that institution had already certain inclination to certain groups versus others. And that is the data that is used in training the system. Of course, the decisions that are going to come out for admission will continue to perpetuate that same bias. Therefore, it is important that throughout the process, there's always human in the loop, which is the second term that I always mention. So we have questions here, and then we have human in the loop. There has to be someone who is double checking of these different systems to make sure that those aspects of bias do not happen. And then you have also bias in the output. So especially in generative AI, when one is interacting with these systems, the user can intently or non-intently force this system, the AI system, to give you certain answers that are biased. And through the further interaction, that bias also perpetuates. So how do you solve that? Education. Education to the user. So you have accountabilities to the deployer, human in the loop across the life cycle, and then education to the user. So those are kind of the three aspects of the journey that have to be looked into to mitigate the bias. The idea would be to eliminate the bias, but to mitigate the bias, someone has to be looking. That someone is a human.
Agreed. And that human in the loop is just so key to have that in the process of anything you're doing in this space. And so, Maryam, you touched on this a bit before, and I want to explore it some more. How do we ensure that AI tools in classrooms are respecting child's autonomy and not just become surveillance tools, like you mentioned earlier?
So I think you heard from me and Grace saying it repeatedly in terms of questioning, critical thinking. Even the education system, the teachers, they need to look into seeing what are the risks. Is there something that should be stopped? Is there something that should we deactivated? It doesn't mean just because it's an AI education tool, it's been tested for everything and is safe in every regard. So it's very important for the educators, the caregivers, the parents to be able to say something, to speak about something, and look at the process. Don't just leave the child alone with the system and thinking because it's been tested before, it's safe for my child. Every child is different, and how do they react to it? How does it impact them? So it goes back to having that transparency and the openness. Sometimes with giving too much trust, we don't question things. But I always say question things all the time. Be open about what makes you uncomfortable. If something is uncomfortable to you, it might be uncomfortable to many others, but maybe people are not very well confident to come forward to speak about it. So even if it's a school, ask, why do we need to have this AI tool in the class? Why are we going to leave the pens and the coloring away and use AI tools to color pictures? I mean, it's nice to learn new technology, new ways of doing things. We are all evolving, we are all advancing. But then sometimes having the basics, this is what I say, don't lose humanity, don't lose what we came here to do. Don't forget how to use your pen. This is important. How much dependency we want to have on these AI. Question, stop and think about it.
There's a time and a place we need to appropriately put in that time and that
Yeah, there
place.
there is a study though that you mentioned is why are we leaving pen for data? Yes, there are two studies done at the corporate level, but that applies very well. One of them has to do with the work slop that is coming out of these systems used in corporate or in education. The reliance on those systems, the over reliance on those systems, is a big danger,
Yes.
and people are moving away dramatically from a good book, a good pen and paper writing,
Yeah.
into inputting certain keys and get an output, and taking the output as is when there's some of this output that is
Yes.
slop.
Yeah.
And then the second consequence as well of the use of AI systems, I was doing a keynote last Friday on this, is there is a growing disconnection
Yes.
between the teacher and the student because the mediator of that is a bot.
Yeah.
And in one of the aspects of the children's rights that we have to keep in mind, this transparency. Transparency means that the parents, the caregivers, and the kids know what is happening with their data, know that they're interacting with an AI tool,
Yes.
but also that that they know that that tool is indeed automatic tool. It's not a human. That when they're interacting with a chatbot, they are not interacting with a human. That there's not a sentient in there. That's the right. It's a transparency right that we have to be able to guarantee.
Yeah. And sadly, I can tell you that now they are looking into this. Children are asking more questions from AI than from their parents.
Wow.
And do we want that? I mean, I love when my child asks me questions about, oh, do you know? I don't know everything. I always sometimes say, I don't know the answer. I will come back to you. But don't lose that connection with the children, the bonding, because it goes all back to that basic, having the connectivity. Say it to your children. I don't know everything, but I can help you to understand. Don't just send them to AI and ChatGPT to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly. Help them get to that answer
Yeah.
as well. So I want to wrap up today with just one signature question that we ask in all of our podcasts. What's one belief in AI and trust that you hold, even if it's unpopular?
I would say I will go back to that principle of the termination obligation. When an AI system misbehaves and causes harm, and there's no possibility of human oversight, the system has to be terminated. That is not too popular, right? There's always the someone will come to you and say, no, 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 we can fix it. We can fix it. No, automated works well because there's bias on the humans, right? We have to push back. And this, I would say the second one is push back to the discourse that innovation and regulation are divorced, that they are in 2 points of the continuum. True innovation is trustworthy innovation. And trustworthy innovation is only obtained when you can govern that innovation and you can set guardrails. So I think that the second one is really the key point of any conversation on AI. This trustworthy innovation is really what we're looking for, a human-centered trustworthy innovation.
Thank you. Great insights, Maryam. Any
Very good.
last points from you?
Yes, so this is tricky. I can't. But I think for me, AI is everywhere now. We hear AI in every conversation. AI is not everything. This is what I want to emphasize. Although it's the trend, the buzz, yes, it's great. It's helping us change things in healthcare, in education, in many things. But it's not everything. Stick to the basics. Don't forget about humanity and what we came here to do and what we came here to teach our children. Of course, alongside your child or the person who you're trying to help, learn together and find out the risks together. I would say, going back to what I said earlier, there's a lot of unknowns, but it's not impossible to figure them out together as a parent or a caregiver with the children.
Maryam, Grace, thank you so much for your valuable insights today. It's been a pleasure to host you. I know these are the kind of conversations that we need to keep going, so I'm sure there's more to come. But thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of AI Trust Talks. If you found it valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anyone who might be interested. Join the conversation with us on Instagram at AI_trust_talks and follow along on Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Your engagement helps us to keep these important discussions alive. From all of us here at AI Trust Talks, thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, keep building trust where it matters the most.